I'm Sasha Nicole.
And I'm Star.
And I'm Dr. T.
And this is Amerikan Therapy, the definitive podcast on all things Black mental health. Y'all, I keep messing up on my words. I promise y'all I'm so educated. I want everybody to know. But that's my ego talking. And we just talked about ego. No, but all jokes aside, y'all know Amerikan Therapy, definitive podcast on all things Black mental health. And so we are super excited. We have another show today. And Star, let us know what we're doing.
So today, drum roll, guys, we have a huge guest, okay? We're talking with the Donny Hathaway Legacy Project, and we're going to touch on his story and, you know, an untouched topic in our community, suicide prevention, and then larger, like the mental wellness, mental health space, and how do we save and keep our family and ourselves from, you know, moving in a certain direction that might not be, you know, we may not be able to return from. So this is a big one.
Absolutely. So we have none other than Donita Hathaway, who, by the way, is the youngest daughter of Donny Hathaway. And so the Donny Hathaway Legacy Project, otherwise known as Getting to the Heart of Mental Health, the Donny Hathaway Legacy Project was formed by his youngest daughter, Donita Hathaway, to honor the famed musician for his contribution to modern music and promote awareness and positive change for the issues that impacted his life and the communities most directly touched by his music. So there's a variety of different goals around the Legacy Project. One of the goals is establishing relationships and partnerships with mental health organizations, participating in creating local and nationwide community activation events. And then also one of their impacts is that they believe that in order to move the needle in regards to mental health, it has to be relatable to the average person. And so why this is so critical and we're excited about having this is because we like to consider Amerikan Therapy something that is relatable to the average person. And so we welcome you, Donita. Thank you for joining us and bringing the Legacy Project to us and just talking about it. And so let's just go ahead and get started as to, you know, how it formed. Obviously you're the youngest daughter, so I understand that there may not have been as much interaction with your father, but the impact and what happened with your father, and if you could touch briefly on that, still had a wide impact, not only within, you know, his family, such as yourself and his kids, but also within music. So let's touch.
Who was your dad? I mean, because, you know, we got a wide range. We got some white listeners, you know, in Montana, whatever. Like, your dad is like a big deal in you know, in music in general. So, like,
that's a good point, Star, because I just be thinking, like, everybody know, like, Hathaway.
Well, that is where I will chime in. First of all, thank you so very much for having me. If you're listening on Stitcher or Podomatic, you have to see the YouTube clip because when the drum roll was happening, I had a monster air drum solo that was happening. When the question was asked, who is my father? I'm pointing to a beautiful portrait that was made by a sister friend of mine in South Carolina that shows who I will say is the greatest singer of all time. Yes. And I'm so proud to be his daughter. His name was Donny Hathaway, and he is really one of the foundations for still, he set the bar for the way singers sing. Even today, there isn't one contemporary male singer or even female that doesn't pull from Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, and my father. Like, those three were like the holy soul trinity, especially when it came to like 70s musicians. And then of course later on it went down to, you know, maybe like a Prince and Michael in terms of artist inspiration. But my father was really a renowned unsung talent that is, a lot of people know him for, if I can mention 3 songs. One is coming up on the 50th anniversary of this song, This Christmas. It's 50 years old this year. Can you believe that? The other would be A Song for You. And I'll also do Someday We'll All Be Free, because that's a song that is being played during, this time of racial, the uprising that we've seen recently, and even during COVID. So saying that to say, I'm proud to be his daughter. The reason that I formed the organization is because my father committed suicide at the age of 33. I was 2 years old at the time. And, living my life without him. And then when I turned 19, I lost my mom. So I lost both of my parents before I was 20. And the heartbreak that, occurred when you lose both parents, especially so young. And with my father being the person that he was and how admired, he still is, there is a level of sympathy that people have with the story. Like, oh my God, your father was so great. It's so sad what happened to him. And so I'm here 40 years later to say, let's talk about what happened to him. How does someone so talented and so gifted and someone who was a genius at what he did have the kind of ending, the tragic ending that he had? So I'm here to talk about
it. Donita, I know, and I had no idea that you had also lost your mother. When you were growing up, was there ever any talk or mention of, was there any reason as to, how your father may have been feeling, what he may have been going through that may have led to him not wanting to be here? Like, did you ever talk about these things as a family?
Yes and no. I was blessed to have a normal childhood, as normal as I could have. And I thank God that my mom allowed me to have that. As I became older, she would basically give me information in doses when she felt that I was at an age that I could handle it. And so at a certain point, I knew that he committed suicide. I didn't know how. And it was actually me being a kid. I went into her closet one day and there was a box on the top shelf. And I opened the box and there was a scrapbook of my dad. And in the scrapbook, there were pictures from his funeral. There were articles that said, that he jumped out of the hotel window in New York. And so even when, at least to my knowledge, because I can't remember, I don't remember really having the conversation of why. I knew he was diagnosed as a schizophrenic, but really understanding that, especially at that age, I was maybe somewhere between 10 and 12. We didn't have that conversation. I don't remember having the conversation, but in my heart and in my soul, I've always known that there was a reason why he wasn't here. And I really unpacked that long after my mom's passing, actually.
How do you, because personally, I've recently had some people in my life that have, gone to, made those attempts. And then in the news, you see that there's certain celebrities that have, recently either successfully made those attempts or have unsuccessfully, thank God, made those types of attempts to remove themselves from this current space, right?
Right.
How do you, and how does your work on all your work on mental wellness and mental health, how does that lay in when we have that hard conversation around suicide? Because that's something that we don't talk about often in our community, and we don't talk about in a really transparent way. It's just kind of, it happened and that's that. How does your work tie into preventing that type of thing, and how are you guys a resource if folks are in that situation where you're making that decision?
Yes. Well, one, because I do want to make it clear, I am a mental health advocate. I'm not a trained psychologist, therapist, but we definitely will lead people if it's dire. There are folks that do this work. And so in terms of the connection, we can be a connection point to someone who needs actual help if they are currently experiencing a life-threatening emergency. So there's your, suicide prevention hotlines. There's, again, therapists and psychologists, depending on the city and state that you're in, that we can connect you to. Outside of that, what I've been able to do in the small amount of time that we've been up, because this is a very new organization, is being able to tell my story somehow opens the door of, oh my God, I thought I was the only one. And so there's a level of, I guess, trust that people have with someone that they know or someone that they like. So an influencer, a celebrity, like people feel that they knew my dad because, you know, he was an artist. And because I'm his daughter, and face it, again, if you're looking at the YouTube clip, I look just like that man. There's a way that people feel that they can relate. And so I approach it in a very realistic fashion. Life is hard, period. You're not a diagnosis. That's for medical professionals. Whatever has happened to you, whatever your heartbreak is or your trauma is, I understand it, because we will all go through it in some way, shape, and form in our lives. And normally it happens several times. And when it comes to like someone like my dad, it's just a stacked pile of one event on top of another, on top of another, on top of another, that will cause someone to break. And so, you know, what we're here to do is to, one, because my boss was on the previous podcast that I got to hear, but a key factor, and she was dead on with this, is to listen to people. And even when they're not speaking, when you can sense that someone's changed or they're becoming more distant, to be able to really recognize it and say, hey, whenever you're ready to talk, that I am here for you. You know, it's very simple, nuanced. It's almost a little too simple, in my opinion. When it comes to calling the cops and, you know, someone being dragged away, it depends on the circumstance, but a lot of times it just does more harm than good. So I try to come to anyone who's in that level of pain of, I hear you, I see you, I've been there.
Beautiful. Dr. T, weigh in. You gotta weigh in.
I was about to talk. But
I like Dr. T.
Donita, hi, Donita. You know,
Hi.
Donita is so right. There has been tons of research that shows most people who attempt and complete suicide have had multiple contacts with health professionals and friends and family members giving them clues, right? Now I'm using air quotes if you're watching the YouTube, or if you're not watching the YouTube, because the clues can look very different. You know, there's this thing floating around social media now where it says, if you were kidnapped and, you know, the kidnapper asked you to keep posting on social media so that people would know that you were still alive, but what would you say that would let them know that something was off? So if we listen to our friends, we know when something's off, right? Most of the time we minimize it. We're afraid to ask. We don't want to feel like we're invading, but people are giving us those cues because they are trying to reach out, and they're trying to test to see if you really want to hear. Most of the time, I tell people this all the time, when we ask the question, how are you doing? We expect a blessed and highly favored, and then we want to all keep going, right? But if you actually pause and say, no, how are you really doing? You just give them that little bit of extra space, most people will actually tell you. So it is very true. And, you know, while we talk about suicide, we should, just for the sake of completeness, give out the hotline number, which is 1-800-273-8255, 1-800-273-8255. That's a national number where there are actually contracted with people in all 50 states, with organizations who you can talk to 24 hours a day. They also have a chat line if you go on their website. So help is always available. And most people who are in that kind of distress have tried to reach out to someone, but the rest of us weren't in tune enough with each other to be willing and open to listen. And the other thing, a misconception, is that people have to have some dire psychiatric illness in order to attempt or complete suicide. With the stress that we are all under and the difficult times that we are all in, anybody can have a moment where they just want to give up. And depending on the circumstances and your frame of mind in that moment, you may do something that you wouldn't have done 10 minutes before or 10 minutes after. So for many people, suicide is a difficult decision they make in the snap of a moment. For some people, they think about it a long time, but just like everything else, there's a wide spectrum. And so when we're trying to engage each other, let's listen, let's be open, and let's really pause to read between the lines. Because most of the time, people that are struggling are looking for support, and they're looking from the rest of us.
Dr. T, when are there any, maybe signs or things that we can pay attention to friends or family who, who maybe might be thinking about that or heading down that path? Or is there any differences from a professional standpoint where sometimes you have these things on your mind? Like I know most recently for myself, there was a moment where I literally sat in the bed and said, I don't want to be here. Mm-hmm. And then you have moments where it's like you may think something and then you act on it. Mm-hmm. Is there a way to distinguish or be concerned for a person who, may have expressed the thought, but you're just not quite sure if they'll go through with the action? Or is there a way, also a two-part question, that we can show up when someone maybe is saying that? Because I know like sometimes like I may have someone reach out and be like, oh, how are you doing? And I remember one time I was just like, I'm not really doing that great. And they were like, but you get through everything. You'll be all right. And I was like, no, like I'm like, and I said it. I was like, but I'm not okay. And they were like, girl, you'll be fine. And so it's, I feel like even, it's like, how do we double down on that? And, so what can we do?
Well, I would say, first of all, if anyone even expresses that they're letting you know that something's wrong. So take them seriously. And I always say the first question that you can ask them is, how can I help? Right? Rather than trying to tell them it's not that serious, you'll get over it, because we just want to make them feel better, right? We say those things because we want to make them feel better. But what I would suggest that people replace all those other phrases with, how can I help? Because then you open the space for the person to really like, oh, maybe this is an opportunity. And just that question can change the whole dialogue and can change the whole direction of what that person is thinking. So just being that same open to listen, open to help in whatever way works for the person. Because the other thing that we do is we start to give them the remedies that just go pray about it, or, just go, do this or do that. All you need is a drink, girl. We're going to get that on, it's like we start giving them the remedies that we think work for us. But again, how can I help creates an environment where the person can tell you what they need. And if they just need you to listen, if they need you to come over, if they need you to go to the emergency room with them, whatever they need is what you're inviting them to share in that moment.
And how do you, because I had one of my very good friends call me, there was a writer or something that had recently passed, I think like a couple months ago, from suicide. And she knew the lady personally, and it threw her in like a tailspin. And she already has some diagnosis, but anyway, she called me like at 1 o'clock in the morning and was like, I don't know. How do you know where your line is? And that was like the big question of like, I know I have a disorder. I know I have a diagnosis. How do I know when I get to my line? It scared her. Having a friend pass that close and then having a disorder, a serious mental health disorder, and being like, okay, now I'm scared because I thought I was cool, but I don't know, when do you get to that point of the line? For folks that are asking that question, that have been in that space, like, what do you say?
I mean, I just say what we just talked about is, if you're questioning it, then ask for help, ask for support. You know, the line may move every single day, you know, because we're doing different things, we're feeling different things. If we're feeling stronger and more resilient, then we can take some stuff. But if we're feeling tired and run down, then something much smaller may be the thing that pushes us over the edge. So just know that the line moves, and that's okay. And asking for help is okay. I feel like, Danita, you were trying to say something, and we're we'll make
Oh,
sure.
I have so many things to say. So many. As a society, we aren't taught how to deal with people when they're in pain or discomfort.
Mm-hmm.
We're taught to celebrate the wins.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, you just got that raise or that new job, or you just met that loved one, you know, yeah, let's go turn up. Let's do this. Let's do that. Yeah, da, da, da. But saying that I'm not okay is like, you could hear, you know, crickets.
Yeah.
We aren't taught as a society how to truly be there for someone when they're not okay, because it's just something that you pray about. You'll be all right. I've seen you get over this and that, or you seem to have it all together, especially if you have a career that's thriving. Like, people look at your Instagram or whatever, like they see you flossing, you know, and people do that to cover and numb the pain that they're in, but not heal it. Right. And so it's the one thing that was said earlier about, there is folks who consider doing self-harm to themselves often. And then sometimes life just happens. So let's just say we started the year 2020, and 2 months later, you lost the love of your life, whether it was a parent or spouse or a child, unexpectedly. See Kobe. And then on top of that, 2 months later, the world shuts down, or your business also shuts down. And let's say on top of that, you lost one loved one. Let's say you lose another due to COVID. There are things that happen in life, and when it happens one after the other, after the other, after the other, if you haven't healed it or even had a time to heal it, it will make you not want to be here anymore, because you can't imagine life without fill in the blank. I can't imagine life without my loved one or my parent or my child or my career that I thought was the reason that I was here, that I exist. And so it's very important, very, very important. And one of the things that I want to highlight as an organization is, you know, when we have our days and our moments and the things that happen to us, you know, you're allowed to grieve. You're allowed to feel some kind of way that those things happen to you. And you can eat all of the ice cream. You can have do all of the group chats. You can do all of those things. But if you don't actually heal what's hurt you, it can lead to really extreme consequences when, again, it comes one after the other after the other. And so if I could just say anything is heal your heart, heal your hurt. And also, sometimes those loved ones that you would think that someone would go to can actually be the trigger to make them not want to get the help, because again, it's prayed away, or Black people don't talk like that or think like that, even though we're the main ones that do. And so you need professional trained help, not all the time, but sometimes you do. Like, that's the joy of therapy, having an outside opinion of someone who is trained to walk you through and unpack, you know, whatever it is that's going on in your life. And so it really should be all of those things. And in fact, I want to pivot just for a second. I have 7 pillars to the Legacy Project that I feel people can use every day, just like we do our physical health, that you can do with your mental health. One is talking, conversation, i.e. therapy, group chat, whatever you need. It could be your pastor. It could be all of those things. I do think it's important to have a spiritual background. When you have nothing, that you still can hold on to that faith that everything's going to be okay because of the God that you admire, or whatever name you want to give it. It is important to have a spiritual, not a religious, but a spiritual foundation. Number 3 is actually your physical health. So things like yoga, exercise, your diet matters. Being hydrated, how much water you drink affects your cognitive skills. That's something to be mindful of every day. 4, I do include a celebrity component for just inspiration. It could be a pastor, it could be Beyonce, whoever you love and adore. It's important for you to get information from people that you like, because sadly enough, you can be a trained professional and it can go in one ear and out the other. But if your fave says, hey, we got to take care of our mental health, it gets your attention a bit different. So it needs to be really a balance of the two. And I'm a Libra, so is my dad. So, I'm all about balance. Being able to laugh. Oh, being able to laugh. When my mom passed, and it really hit that she had passed, I was in Chicago. I was on a bus. I ended up going to Ford City Mall in Chicago, and I was just out of it. So the depression had started to hit. This is 1998, and there's a movie theater in the parking lot, and the movie South Park had just come out. Long story short, because there were only like 5 people in the theater, because it was early, it was like 10 o'clock. But when I tell you, I laughed so hard, even as dark as it was. I had just lost my mother. But I laughed so hard that it was a form of medicine. And it's a form of medicine that I go to, like when there is a day where I'm triggered, or it's an anniversary of like my mom's passing or my dad's, I'll say, hey, I need a comedy. Can someone give me something? Like, I need to laugh. And the next one is the opposite, is crying. I don't know why we have this shame of crying, but again, that's one of the best pieces of medicine that you have to be able to release that water of, I'm hurting. Like, we keep that locked in, let it out. So crying is another one. I think that the last one is the healing power of music. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you can, like, we can be talking on this podcast right now. If I hear Frankie Beverly and Maze before I let go right now, I'm gonna be like, hey, like, there's something that's infectious about music, and it's because it reaches our brain at a astounding rate, considering we only use, I think it's 13% of our brain power. Like, music reaches your brain, I want to say it's like 80 or 90%. It's a high percentage. And so we can go back to when we were a teenager, the songs that we hear. I mean, that's why the 90s radio is still popping. It's like, yeah, come on, ABC, DVD, like, every time it will work every time. And so seeing videos of patients who have Alzheimer's, and maybe a spouse will sing a song, and you would see them, start to mouth the words of the song, or start to sing, or, get an emotional reaction. That is the healing power of music. And the fact that my father is a contributor to something that we love, and he has songs that people love and adore. Like, when Donny Hathaway sings, you believe whatever it is that he's saying. So if he's saying to be young, gifted, and Black, oh, what a lovely, precious dream, it's like, yes. Or this Christmas will be a very special Christmas for me. Like, yes. People say they don't feel that it's Christmas until they hear my dad's version of that song. So, or when you're in love, to hear a song like For All We Know, or A Song for You, people will say that, damn it, Donnie, like, you made me cry. Like, yes, feel the feels. Go ahead and feel the feels. And so it's a a powerful tool and a holistic tool. All of those were holistic tools that if you practice every day, even when life hits you, you'll be able to handle it that much better because you are equipped. You kind of have like your suit of armor. Or for my dad, it was his apple cap. Like whatever your thing is, your cape. Like fuel yourself with enough things so that when life happens, that you'll be able to handle it as best as you can. That was a long rant, but I had to get that.
No, that wasn't a rant. That was beautiful. So like Dr. T and for Danita, like, you know, you talk basically what you talk about, like I heard wellness plan. You know, like, so, you know, somebody I've dealt, just to be transparent, I've dealt for well over 10 years with chronic depression and anxiety disorder, diagnosed, psychiatrist, therapist, all of that, had a whole mental breakdown twice. You know, so I got the t-shirt and all of it, right?
The bumper sticker, the buttons, the
bumper sticker, the t-shirt, all of it, a couple therapists that I've been through, run up through, you know. So I guess what I asked this question is like, how do people build a wellness plan? How can you explain what that is? And that, you know, things that we often are scared of, which are like inpatient therapy. You know, like, how does that look? And like, because, you know, it's one thing to call a friend, but I've been in this fight because it's a lifelong fight. And, you know, that wellness plan has saved my life and a couple of times. And so can you share what that is? How do you build that with your practitioner so that, because part of I know for me and my disorder, part of one of the critical things of saving my own life is that I have to be critically accountable for myself every single day. And I got to work the plan. So can you share that? That might be something people aren't aware of.
Yeah, they're actually, you know, a wellness plan is really just your own personal roadmap. Then you have people that you choose to share that with so they can help you stay on the right path. Because as you mentioned, most mental health issues, but all of us go through emotional ups and downs and roller coasters. That's natural as a part of life. So it's as simple as, number one, knowing yourself and knowing when you're in trouble. Number two, having a plan of what to do when you're in trouble. And number three, having people who can help keep eyes on you in case you miss it yourself. And though you could break all of those steps down in a whole variety of ways, there's actually a national certification process called WRAP, W-R-A-P, Wellness Recovery Action Planning. You can take a class and learn how to develop your own plan. It's a table and you just fill it out and you say, these are the people that I'm going to tell what my symptoms are. So when they see them, they can check me. These are the things I'm going to do when I have this set of symptoms. If I've gone to this set of symptoms, I need to be doing something else. And those things can be as simple as take a bubble bath or listen to music, to as extreme as call 911 or talk to my psychiatrist or my psychologist, and everything in between. But it's really centered on knowing yourself, knowing what you need to do to take care of yourself, and having supportive people around you who can point out when you're not taking care of yourself.
And letting them know, like for me, one of the key things is that the folks on my plan, they know they're on my plan. And they got a copy and they're like, oh, okay, all right, I got you. Because sometimes like when you just talking or texting, you know, if people don't know what you're going through or have an idea, then you can be like, you know, this happened to us the other day. It's like, oh, well, you know, I didn't know something was really wrong. You know, so how can we, if we need that, and I think everybody needs it, but anyway, you know, like let other people participate.
Absolutely should be written down and absolutely should be shared, and it should be updated annually, because just like you change, your life change, your needs change, what works change. I told a family about this process today, and I said, like, literally just start writing things on the wall, and when you have a bad day, try number one. If that doesn't work, try number two, and then you just keep track, and then you flip things around. We talk about a toolbox, and anybody who's building anything needs more than one tool, right? A carpenter can't build a house with only a saw, because you can't put nails in, and you can't put things together, and you can't, you know, connect pipes. You need more than one tool to get a job done.
Yes, and if I can say this in terms of how I figured it out for myself, I had to go through a lot of pain, not only mental pain, but physical pain. Woo! The thing about life, because I'm 43, I think. I was born in 76. I think I'm turning 43 this year. I lost track of a year. So, yeah, my friends get on me all the time when I say this. Like, wait, what happened? Like, you what? Anyway, when I didn't heal the hurt of my mom, which was my biggest heartbreak, and I went straight to work for years and then decades. When my mom passed, I know I said, I never want to feel that level of hurt again. And so what I did was I put up a steel titanium wall. And nothing gonna get through that wall because ta-da, no one or nothing is gonna hurt me the way the death of my mother would. And so I'm going through life. I'm in my 20s and then I'm in my 30s. And it's like, whoa, I don't have a relationship. I don't date. I go to work. I go home. I'm working a little too much and trying a little too hard because as everyone wants to be loved and cared for and appreciated. And so I'm doing all of this, which was totally unnecessary. And then all of a sudden, like, oh, I have a slipped disc. And it hurt me so bad, but I didn't even realize how much physical pain I was in. And fast forward, literally, I think it was almost 5 years later, I was sitting in a car at a red light and I got hit from behind by a U-Haul truck. And my back was still already like a little out, like you never really fully heal from something like that. And I was already out of alignment. And when I tell you it was the worst pain of my minimal car damage, jacked me up. I had chills up and down my legs. I really couldn't walk. I realize now that it was even that small impact, but it was a truck. And we don't know what was in that truck, was equivalent of falling, I think, out of a 2-story or 3-story window. But I was still, even then, I was still working. I had just moved to LA and I'm trying to pay this very expensive rent, and I'm still going and still going and still going. And I got to a point where it seemed like I was getting back to normal. And during a wellness session, the person who was working at me in the very last minutes of that session, like threw my leg up and like pressed her hand like so hard into my sacrum, which is where my injury was, that it rehashed my injury and it was worse than it was before. And so it literally made me stop and go, okay. I can't sit down the way I used to. I can't bend over and pick up things. I can't carry anything heavier than this because it affects the way that I this pain. When I go to bed, even now, when I wake up, I'm going to have to undo being locked because, I've been through that much physical pain and the mental anguish that causes because now I can't do nothing. So what it made me do was it made me lean on some wellness practices that I already had. And I had a wonderful circle of friends around me who we hold each other accountable. And so we were able to develop things that we can fall back on. But it was really the physical pain that led me to what I already knew in terms of my wellness plan. Stop in the morning, meditate before I pick up that phone. Say thank you just for getting up, this morning. Stretching. I have a spiritual vitamin that I take. For me, it's TD Jakes, like he does it for me. And then have, my green drink or, my kombucha or my ginger tea, like eating clean, all of those things, like to get the inflammation down, but even from a spiritual perspective. It was, I'm hoping I'm making sense. It was a heartbreak and a wall that I put up, along with extreme physical pain that made me really realized what those wellness practices actually needed to be in order for me to walk, literally. And now I'm able, present day, because that was only a year ago, actually, I'm much stronger than I've ever been, because I've leaned on that wellness plan. And I have people who are very close to me who hold me accountable and lift me up when I need it. And so I'm grateful for that. And I hope that everyone has that. And I hope that folks don't have to go through what I went through and what a lot of us have gone through. Like, talk to folks and see how they got out of those dark places. Like, hey, you went through such and such. How did you get out of it? Like that's the other thing. Actually, the last seventh pillar, we used to have a lovely thing called the village. In my lifetime, we've lost even in my lifetime, we have lost the village. And so just being able to have someone that you can relate to and get some pointers from, or again, like, hey, you went through, we can do it for the wins. Like, hey, you just built this business. How'd you do that? You know, I really admire how you do such and such. Or I could say, hey, Dr. T, like them twists, like them, yeah, I want some blonde ones like that. So can you refer me to the person who did your twist? Like in the same, but not just for that, but for your life. Like, hey, let's not be afraid to ask people, you know, those very, again, simple questions. I saw you go through whatever. Did you make it out, or how did you make it out? And then, you know, that activates the village. Another rant, I'm sorry.
Donita, definitely not a rant, it's definitely helpful. As we close out, is there anything else that we should know about the Donny Hathaway Legacy Project? Where to find anything that, obviously, I mean, we all know we're in these COVID times, so I'm sure there may not be any physical events, but if there's anything virtual that you're doing, website, like just anything that we should know further about the project.
Yes. So a few things. One, we have a website, donnyhathaway.org. That's DONNYHATHAWAY.org. I'm on all socials at Donny Hathaway, L as in legacy, P as in project. Something that I am looking forward to launching in a big way, probably it's either going to be between Halloween or Thanksgiving, but for the holiday season, I'm going to have something called Friends Christmas. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, we're caroling. See, this is why I don't sing. I am the non-singing Hathaway. Yes, I am. That goes to Layla and Kenya. They do a beautiful job at that. But Friends Christmas is going to be a mental health initiative for the holidays. And so how can we make this Christmas be a very special Christmas for everyone? So before the pandemic, there are folks when the holiday season rolls around, it hasn't been the same for a variety of reasons. Maybe, again, they've lost a loved one, they've lost a job, they're not at a place that they thought they could be, they can't get presents for their kids, etc. Or they're alone or feel alone, whatever that is. And so we don't hear about including those folks. It's just, oh, they're the Grinch, right? Like, people are in pain. And the holidays, a lot of times, is a reminder of that pain. And so these simple, again, accountability. I know you've been through a lot this year. Earlier, you lost a job or a loved one, or you fill in the blank. I want to make sure that you're okay, not only for the holidays, but anytime. Can I invite you to our holiday dinner? Is there a gift? Or is there something that you need? Maybe there's some kind of wellness gift that we can give, like a true gift that lasts. Maybe it's a spa, or maybe it's a trip somewhere. Maybe it's a plane ticket. In the olden days, it used to be a concert. Remember those? Remember when we used to go to concerts? Maybe it's like, hey, let's go work out together, like whatever it is. But it's being able to truly check in on our people and say, I want to make sure that you're okay, not only now, but whenever you need me. And so I'm going to be putting together a toolkit and some PSAs, like some messaging, because sometimes people don't know how to have that conversation. That's why you get the, oh, you okay, you okay, you all right. Like, no. There's other ways of doing that. So we'll be launching French Christmas, the This Christmas Mental Health Initiative this holiday season. So
And look,
really,
y'all call American Therapy because we'll do one in PSAs with you. You know what I'm saying?
Come on, American Therapy. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Dr. T, what say you?
This has been a great conversation because it helps us to normalize that everybody has pain. And it's when we don't get to express that pain that we end up making choices or decisions that we could later regret, but certainly that impact those around us. And so this is really just a reminder for us in our care of ourselves to take care of each other, to leave that space to really ask the question and hear the answer of how can I help you? And that could be holding my hand. That could be sharing your story of pain. Like Danita said, we oftentimes are very big on telling our successes, but somebody might need to know that you survived the pain that you have survived so that they can survive the pain that they're going through. So really creating that space to help another person, whether that means sharing the ups or downs, but just listening and being open to receiving whatever it is and offering honestly whatever they need.
Star?
I love it, Dr. T. That was good. That was perfect. I got 2 things, right? Okay, but I'm gonna go quick because I gotta go to ladies' room real quick. Text the son, like, I gotta go.
These would be a ladies' room, I understand.
So I would say, one, before gratitude, thank you, Danita. We really appreciate what you're doing. Keep doing it. It's going to save some lives. It's going to enrich and help a lot of people. I know that. And the friends miss, I'm all in. I love it. I totally love it. So my first one is the wellness plan. I go back to that because it saved my life. It's something that, and as Dr. T said, write it down, share it with the folks that are part of the plan. It's a critical tool to help you navigate that day-to-day and those hard, really rough times that many times just hit us by surprise. And sometimes they don't, but many times you wind up, you're like, oh, I'm doing great. And then COVID hits, and then maybe a job loss hits, and then maybe a family member passes. And they all just happen at the same time. So wellness plan is critical. Talk to your mental health provider, as well as your doctor, your physical doctor, about developing a mental health plan and the folks in your tribe. And then the second thing, Danita, you talked about it in a different way, but I hear it the same as a yogi, rituals. Building life-saving, life-sustaining rituals on it that every day I do these 10 things. I start my day this way. I close my day that way. For folks like myself that have, mental health disorders and diagnosis, discipline is a critical tool in being accountable and helping to navigate and save your own life and keep yourself well. So those rituals, keep it, building them, whatever they may be, using your tribe to help build those, and being disciplined about them. That has been those have been the 2 biggest things in staying well and managing chronic depression, and managing it in a way that lets me live a good life. I have down points, they're real down points, but I'm still here, and I'm a testament, as well as many of our other guests that we've had, to that you can live your best life with a disorder. So
I think to close out quickly, I would just say, 2 things. One, me and Star had a conversation before where it's like sometimes we aren't able, or we don't think about what we can do to tell people what we need. And that becomes difficult because we're not used to asking people for anything. And so we do have to become more comfortable in saying, hey, I really need this because I'm not okay. And then 2, just acknowledging to yourself that you aren't possibly okay, and being comfortable with that. And I think for a lot of us, it's just hard for us to admit that, hey, there is something wrong, or I may need to try this. I know for years I was unwilling to try any type of medication, and this is the first time that I've been open to that. So, you know, with that said, Donita, we thank you so much. Thank you for sharing, not only through your own experience, but also through your father, and we appreciate it. We honor that, and thank you. And call us for the PSA, because we'll be there. Amerikan Therapy, and we out.